Hello, I am John Korzanecki, and in this section we'll talk false positives. A brief description, example, and corrective action will be discussed. Firstly, a false positive can be described as a legitimate action that is perceived as a risk or a threat that is not an actual risk or threat to the system. A prime example of false positives that may occur is through one's email. Legitimate messages can be flagged as either spam, be considered a violation of content, such as zip files, and poor reputation checks. That being said, false positives can be applied to almost any type of security scenario. Let's look at another example of false positive. Intrusion detective systems, IDSs, throw off constant alarms even if traffic is legitimate. An IDS alerts the network administrator of possible risk or threats from questionable sources such as unknown MAC addresses, IP addresses, and other routing and networking protocols. These constant alerts negatively affect the system in that administrators become lax because they consider the high amount of alerts to be normal and may ignore more serious threats. Also, too many false positives become difficult to manage and put a burden on both the administrators and the end users. We can avoid or minimize false positives by performing corrective action. You can fine-tune your system to allow future attempts of legitimate action. You can create lists of trusted, known senders to bypass content filtering and redefine IDS thresholds to a lower value to prevent an increase in false positives. In conclusion, we talked about and defined a false positive. Next, examples were given and their adverse effects were annotated. And finally, we discussed corrective actions that could be performed to minimize or eliminate false positives altogether.